As I was saying before, the camera overheated and I changed my shirt. The officials in South Africa that were concerned for the elephants discovered that what they had to do was put the elephants they had gathered up and put into the new game preserve back into the original preserve from which they had been gathered. And what they had to do, they learned, was allow the elephants to stay with their herds, the original herds, past the age of 14 years. Because, as it turned out, it takes 14 years for an elephant to learn how to be an elephant. Now, that's a wonderful fact if we think about it, because elephants are very sympathetic. I think most people regard how intelligent they are and how complex they are as creatures. We know so much about them. And it takes them that long to be an elephant. So what happened was when they allowed these elephants to remain with their herds past the age of 14 years, they're with the original matriarchs, the original with the original allo mothers and others in the herd, and they learned how to be elephants. Once they allowed them to do that, the officials could gather up those elephants once more and put them back into the new preserve that they had prepared for them. And now they found out that once they had allowed them to do that, these elephants formed herds of their own, began to use the food in the new game preserve efficiently so that they could survive from it and prosper from it. And most delightful of all, they stopped beating up the rhinoceroses, which I think must have pleased the rhinoceroses tremendously. Now, what I'm saying about that is that there's something for us, for you and me, to be learned by assimilating ourselves to these animals. Now, I want to be very careful here, because if you think about it in popular English, if you really want to insult somebody and put him down, you refer to him or her as an animal. You see, as though that was the ultimate condemnation, the ultimate condescension that could be inflicted on someone. Now, what I'm saying is we are part of that animal world. We have essentially evolved in the context of the evolution of mammals over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And in some sense or other, we participate in a pattern that we can study and learn from these elephants and from other animals that are essentially doing the same. For example, just recently I was watching a program of 4 tiger kittens that were born to a tiger mother in India, and essentially one in the programs, one watched these 4 little tigers learn how to be tigers. Much more rapid process. It took about 2.5 years for them to become adult tigers, but they had to learn how to hunt. And that did not come as an automatic instinctual emergence in these tigers just by the fact that they grew up. Mama had to show them how to hunt, how to kill their prey. A friend of mine recently saw a program, I didn't see it myself, where young lions were essentially not aware of how to kill their prey until they were shown how to do it by the older lions. So in short, there is a kind of learning, and I'm using that word very importantly in these conversations. I don't want it to be just a kind of intellectual learning, and that's why I'm talking about the animals. When I use the word learning, I hope you will understand it in a very multidimensional fashion, which they're showing to us. And we will explore that in the upcoming talks. In other words, essentially, I would maintain that as creatures of evolution, what we humans have essentially done is opted for the quality of learning, which is shown to us in some degree or other by these other fellow travelers on the planet. And the question is, what is there about our human learning in this multidimensional sense that will help us to understand what we call emotional problems, which will essentially help us to understand what are the obstacles in our way if we're trying to live an effective life. In other words, what is it that we have to learn life effectively? How can we live that life effectively? And that's the question that we're asking here.